Chosen one, let me say something that might stop you in your tracks. What you've been calling a delay is not a delay at all. It's a divine recalibration, a sacred strategy. You see, what feels like God holding you back is often Him holding everything else in place. So your arrival won't be just timely, it will be transformational. This isn't about lost time. It's about divine alignment. You've cried out in the quiet, wondering if you've missed something. You've asked, why is it taking so long? And in the stillness, all you've heard was silence. But that silence, it was never empty. It was pregnant with design, with timing, with layers of meaning you couldn't see because the orchestration of your life is operating on a frequency far beyond this realm. God isn't delaying you. He's synchronizing you. You carry more than a dream. You carry the ignition key to generational transformation. That's why things couldn't move quickly. If this were only about your personal success, it would have happened already. But it's not. It's about legacy. It's about correcting what was broken, healing what was ignored, and planting what will outlive you. That kind of work, God's kind of work, takes time. It requires patience forged through fire, faith built in obscurity, and trust that matures even when you feel unseen. And let's be real, you felt unseen, haven't you? Not just by people, but by life itself. You've watched others pass you by, get chosen, get noticed, get celebrated. Meanwhile, you've been in the wilderness, building quietly, enduring silently, questioning internally. But here's the truth. Most won't tell you the wilderness is not a punishment. It's a proving ground. And for the chosen one, that wilderness becomes the womb of power. You weren't just delayed. You were preserved. Like a rare seed kept in the dark until the season matched the potential. Because the world wasn't ready for what you carry. And honestly, you weren't ready to carry it either. Not yet. But now the soil of your spirit has been tilled. Your roots run deep. The storms didn't destroy you. They strengthened your stem. You are becoming what your ancestors dreamed of, but never reached. You were the answer to prayers whispered generations ago. This is why you couldn't be rushed. God didn't want you influenced by trends or moved by validation. He wanted you anchored in truth, unshaken by the noise, and aligned with something eternal. He didn't want you to just go fast. He wanted you to go deep. And going deep takes time. So yes, others may have sprinted ahead. But they weren't building what you're building. You're constructing a temple, not a tent. You're shaping a legacy, not a moment. You are the one He set apart for something holy. And holiness doesn't happen on a schedule. It's not mass-produced. It's handcrafted in the sacred space of waiting. That's why your timing feels different. You're not just aligned with the calendar. You're aligned with eternity. And when God works in eternity, He doesn't rush. He moves with purpose. Every delay has been a step in divine choreography. Every closed door was a layer of protection. Every unanswered prayer a rerouting to something far beyond what you were even capable of asking for. But listen, I know what that waiting room feels like. I know the ache of wondering if you misunderstood the call. If maybe you misheard God. If perhaps you overestimated what He was really going to do through you. But hear me. Chosen one, God doesn't make mistakes with vessels. He pours purpose into those who can hold the weight. And you, yes, You have been expanded in the dark to carry more than you ever imagined. This isn't punishment. It's preparation. The longer the wait, the greater the weight of glory. What's coming through you isn't ordinary, it's generational. You were delayed because he was making room. Not just in the world, but in you. Room for clarity, room for discernment, room for authority, and most importantly, room for legacy. Because the impact God intends through your life isn't limited to you. It's generational. It reaches forward. It flows backward. It's healing your bloodline. Yes, but it's also planting seeds your descendants will harvest. This is why the enemy fought you so early, so relentlessly. Because he knew that if you ever discovered who you are and what you carry, it wouldn't just change your story, it would rewrite your entire lineage. That kind of revelation can't be rushed. It must be revealed in the right season. And chosen one, you're entering that season now. Remember, these trees that are meant to stand for centuries don't shoot up overnight. Their roots grow downward first, establishing strength, before they ever stretch toward the sky. You've been going deep, and now it's time to rise. So don't resent the timing. Rejoice in the preparation. You're not behind. You're not late. You're right on time, God's time. The alignment was never just about you. It was always about what would flow through you, what would be birthed, broken, healed, and resurrected through the power you carry. Chosen one. Your life is not delayed. It's being divinely staged for a generational release. Now let's go deeper. Because what you're walking through isn't random, it's architecture. Intricate, layered, sacred. God isn't just working in your life. He's working through your life to align something much bigger than you. You are part of a blueprint that's been unfolding across generations. A divine scaffolding rising through the timelines of your bloodline. Chosen one. You have to understand this. You are not the first piece of the puzzle, and you won't be the last. But you are the key piece, the cornerstone that had to be shaped just right, at just the right moment, to bear the weight of what others could not carry. That's why your life feels different. That's why the process has felt heavier. You're being positioned not just for destiny, but for alignment. Alignment isn't about convenience. It's about convergence. God has been synchronizing people, places, and even pasts to align with the exact moment your spirit is fully activated. Your parents may not have known it. Your culture may have overlooked it. But in the spirit, heaven has been waiting for this alignment like a trumpet waits for breath. Some of what you've experienced, the broken relationships, the job losses, the moves that didn't make sense, they weren't accidents. They were reroutes, divine interruptions. He was stripping away everything that would contaminate the frequency of what you're called to release. Because this calling, it requires precision, purity, and timing. See, in your family line, there have been threads of greatness. Yes, but also gaps. Traumas that went unresolved, gifts that went undeveloped, callings that were crushed under the weight of cultural expectations, addiction, silence, fear. You were sent as the one to stand in the gap, to align what was left undone and usher it into divine order. You weren't delayed, you were being prepared for a generational handoff. And when you step into your assignment, you don't just heal your own heart. You shift the course of the entire lineage. It's like spiritual tectonic plates. Your obedience causes the entire foundation to shift. Suddenly, the shame that once ran through your bloodline is interrupted. The cycle of lack and silence and spiritual ignorance is broken. In you, alignment is happening not just outwardly, but inwardly, deeply, eternally. You are becoming the alignment your ancestors prayed for, but didn't have the words to describe. They may not have known your name, but your spirit was seen in visions, in dreams, in the quiet cries of the generations that came before you. And now you're here not just to survive, but to complete what they could not. Think about it. In Scripture, we see this generational alignment over and over. Moses led, but Joshua conquered. Abraham birthed the promise, but it took Isaac and Jacob to carry it into identity and multiplication. David was anointed, but Solomon was appointed to build. The alignment didn't happen in one person. It happened through a sequence, each chosen, each essential, but you're unique. Because in your line, you may be the only awakened one, the only spiritually sensitive soul in a generation that numbed itself with distraction, the only one who said yes to God when everyone else bowed to survival. That's why your path feels so heavy, because the weight of what you're aligning hasn't been held in decades, maybe even centuries. And here's the part you might not have realized. This alignment is activating dormant blessings. Things that were promised but never possessed. Mantles that hovered over the bloodline, waiting for a willing vessel. Territories that were mapped in the spirit but never stepped into. God is using your life to realign time itself, to redeem it, repurpose it, reawaken it. That's why time has felt strange for you. Like you're behind, but ahead. Like your soul is old, but your journey is just beginning. Because you're walking in more than just your own shoes, you're carrying the footsteps of many. And those footsteps are not being wasted. They're converging, colliding, aligning. You've probably felt the tension of that. The sense that your life is being pulled in directions you didn't choose. The sense that the timing of things never quite matches the calendar you expected. That's because alignment doesn't care about convenience. It cares about destiny. And destiny happens at the speed of obedience, not comfort. So if you've felt stretched, weary, or confused lately, chosen one, that's not failure. That's the feeling of alignment, of old wineskins being shed so new glory can be poured in, of spiritual bones realigning so divine authority can stand tall within you. You're not breaking down. You're coming into form. You are the alignment point where heaven and earth meet in your bloodline. You are the one that makes crooked things straight, broken things whole, silent things sing. And yes, it took time. Yes, it felt like delay. But it was divine timing rethreading a scattered lineage into a tapestry of legacy. This is why your yes matters more than you know. Your obedience isn't just for your breakthrough, it's for the babies yet unborn. It's for the elders watching silently, wondering if this generation can carry the flame. It's for the angels assigned to your name, who have waited with holy anticipation for this hour to strike. Your life is architectural. It's divine engineering. You are a temple being constructed with generational materials, but heavenly blueprints. And just like no one builds a skyscraper overnight, God refused to rush your formation. You were never forgotten. You were never sidelined. You were aligned. And now, we need to confront something that's been silently gnawing at you for far too long. Why does it seem like everyone else is moving faster? Why do others seem to leap ahead while you're still waiting for the door to even appear, much less open? Chosen one. That question has haunted your heart in secret moments. You've watched peers rise, watched strangers gain platforms, watched others walk into relationships, careers, ministries, and moments that look like the very things you were promised. And even when you've celebrated them outwardly, inwardly you've asked, God, did you forget me? But here's what they don't see and what you must never forget. The reason others seem to move faster is because they're not carrying what you're carrying. You're not just walking for yourself, you're walking on behalf of generations. And when you're carrying legacy, not speed, but stability becomes the priority. Let me put it this way. A motorcycle can zip through traffic, fast and flashy. But a freight train moves differently. It's slower, more deliberate, but it's also carrying cargo that can shift economies. You're the freight train. And that's not a burden, it's an honor. See? Many people are running ahead with lightweight callings. There's nothing wrong with that. But they're building things that might only last a season. You, on the other hand, are being asked to carry weight that must stand the test of time. You're being asked to forge pathways where there were none, to walk into rooms where your ancestors were never allowed to enter. That kind of journey demands more preparation, more patience, more pressing. They may not understand the heaviness you've had to navigate, the way you've had to silence your own needs just to preserve your spiritual equilibrium, the way you've questioned your own value simply because the world seemed to reward others quicker, louder, flashier, but chosen one. Hear this: God didn't rush your process because he refused to let you be built on shallow soil. He saw the sabotage ahead and held you back to protect your integrity. He saw the temptations that would have destroyed you if you'd been elevated too soon. He saw the emotional wounds that still needed healing, the spiritual gifts that needed maturing, the discernment that needed sharpening. So while it looked like he was delaying you, he was actually preserving you. Think of Joseph. At 17, he received the dream. But it took 13 years of betrayal, slavery, imprisonment, and obscurity before he saw the palace. People forget that. They quote the dream, but not the dungeon. They want the favor, but not the formation. And Joseph, he wasn't just being positioned for himself, he was being aligned to preserve a nation, to sustain a lineage, to hold grain for generations. That kind of purpose takes time. Or consider Jesus, the Son of God, walking among us, and yet he waited 30 years before performing a single miracle. 30 years of preparation for a 3-year ministry. Why? Because his life wasn't just about performing wonders. It was about fulfilling prophecy, completing alignment, redeeming all of humanity. Eternity had to be threaded through every moment, and that cannot be rushed. So if your path has felt slower, heavier, more winding, it's because it is. You are called to be a cornerstone, not a decoration, to be a gate, not a signpost. And gates take longer to build because they are entry points for others. You are that gate for your family, for your community, for those coming after you who won't have to fight the battles you've already won. You've probably noticed, too, that the crowd that once ran with you has thinned. People you started with are no longer beside you. They couldn't understand why you stopped chasing every opportunity, why you stopped craving attention, why you pulled back into the quiet. It's because you started hearing something they didn't. You started discerning that speed wasn't your measure, alignment was. And once your spirit caught that revelation, You couldn't go back to the race. Let me affirm this in you. Now you are not behind. You are in formation. The slowness you feel is not stagnation, it's sacred. Every so-called delay is God adjusting the dials of your timing to match the rhythm of heaven. You're not on Earth's schedule. You're on kingdom time. And when God releases you, it will not be a quiet unfolding. It will be a generational unveiling. What took years in silence will move in months once alignment is complete. The doors that seemed welded shut will swing open without warning. And those who seemed ahead will watch you rise in a way that defies explanation because they didn't see the foundation you were laying in the dark. Your authority won't be loud, but it will be undeniable. Your voice won't need to beg, it will command. And when people ask where you came from, they'll have no idea that your answer came through years of private dying, years of divine pruning, years of faithful waiting. So, if you've been feeling left out, overlooked, forgotten, let me assure you, you are not being punished. You're being preserved. God didn't forget the promise. He's fulfilling it at a depth that no storm can undo. He's building you into someone that can carry power without corruption, favor without arrogance, and influence without compromise. You're not slow. You're strategic. You're not late. You're layered. You're not lost. You're becoming. And soon, very soon, everything that once looked like delay will suddenly look like design. Now, let's touch a wound that runs deep, one that most people can't even name. The burden you carry didn't begin with you. The battles you're fighting, the shadows that keep showing up in your path, they were passed down and chosen one. That's no accident. Because you weren't just sent here to succeed. You were sent to interrupt a pattern. You were born into a line filled with potential but fractured by pain. Trauma, silence, missed callings, broken trust, hidden shame. Maybe it showed up as poverty or cycles of addiction. Maybe it looked like women always losing their voice, or men walking away, or a spirit of fear that hovered over every decision. You've looked around your family and wondered, why does no one talk about these things? Why does this keep happening over and over again? And now you know it's because you were born to be the one who faces it, not in your own strength, but with divine blueprints drawn in heaven, embedded in your spirit before you were ever formed in your mother's womb. That unease you've carried your whole life. That sense that something just isn't right, even when things look fine, that's not paranoia. That's discernment. That's spiritual sensitivity. That's your soul recognizing the generational codes you were sent here to break. You weren't chosen randomly. You were assigned. And with that assignment came a weight that few understand. You felt it in the form of spiritual fatigue, emotional heaviness, even physical exhaustion that no amount of rest seems to fix. That's not just your pain. That's ancestral pain surfacing through you, so it can be healed by you. You are the pivot point, the generational interruption, but that doesn't mean you're just a vessel for suffering. No, chosen one. You're the vessel for redemption. Your pain carries purpose. Your tears are watering seeds of transformation. The trauma you've endured is becoming the curriculum of your authority. Because the only ones qualified to break the curse are the ones who felt the sting of it in their bones. This is why you feel older than your age. It's why you see things others ignore. Why you speak with wisdom you never studied. Because you are carrying a depth that spans generations. And that's not overwhelming, it's ordained. God trusted you with this. And He didn't just send you with empathy, He sent you with answers. Now, let's be real. It hasn't been easy. There are days when it feels like everything is on your shoulders. You try to explain what you're walking through, but people look at you like you're crazy. They say things like, just move on, or why do you take everything so seriously? But they don't realize this isn't just about your healing. It's about their healing too. You are trying to cleanse a river while still swimming through it. And that takes supernatural strength. Let me tell you something sacred. Your sensitivity is your superpower. You see what others suppress. You feel what others numb. And that's because your spirit is awake, fully aware, deeply tuned into frequencies that most people never learn how to access. That's not a flaw. That's confirmation of your calling. Remember, Moses wasn't just called to leave Egypt, he was sent back to free his people from it. That's what you're doing. You were delivered so you could go back and deliver. You were healed so you could carry healing. You were awakened so you could call others out of their sleep. But you can't do that from a place of bitterness. You must move from pain to purpose, from carrying trauma to channeling truth, from asking why me to declaring it had to be me. Because only someone like you, someone who sees, who hears, who feels, could bear the burden without becoming it. You've already been doing this, by the way. When you said no to that toxic relationship, you broke a generational pattern of settling. When you chose to forgive, even without an apology, you rewrote the narrative of retaliation. When you walked away from environments that felt familiar but were harmful, you did what those before you couldn't. And every time you made a hard choice in secret, heaven recorded it. Angels marked it. Legacy shifted because of it. You are not alone in this. The Spirit of God walks with you. The prayers of your ancestors echo around you. And the future generations, those yet to be born, they are watching from eternity, whispering, "Thank you." But here's the part most people overlook. This alignment isn't just about healing the past, it's about releasing the future. Because when a generational curse is broken, a generational blessing is activated. You're not just stopping pain, you're starting abundance, wisdom, clarity, spiritual inheritance. There will come a day when your grandchildren's grandchildren won't even recognize the bondage you had to break through. Because of you, their normal will be freedom. Their default will be faith. Their ceiling will be the floor you built. That's why it took so long. That's why it felt like delay. Because what God is building in you will outlive you. It had to be slow, so it could be sure. It had to be heavy, so it could be holy. So hold your head up. Chosen one, you are not cursed. You are called. You are not carrying burdens, you are carrying blueprints. And everything you've endured, every lonely decision, every unexplainable sorrow, every moment of isolation, it was all part of the design. You're not just breaking cycles. You are creating new ones. Ones filled with light, love, power, and peace. And generations will rise up and call you blessed, not because you were perfect, but because you were willing. You are the one who said yes, the one who saw the fire and still stepped forward. And because of that, everything changes. Chosen one. Let's talk about the mantle you carry because it's heavier than most people could ever imagine. You've been wondering why life doesn't seem to give you the same freedom, the same leeway others enjoy. Why your lessons come harder. Why the stakes always seem higher. It's not because you're cursed. It's because you've been mantled, cloaked in spiritual authority that can't be treated lightly. You didn't ask for this. You didn't campaign for it. You weren't striving to be chosen. But heaven saw something in you. And that mantle, this divine covering, was placed over your life not as an accessory, but as an assignment, a sacred charge, a royal responsibility. And with it came a weight that often feels invisible, until you try to live like those around you. Then, suddenly, the difference becomes unmistakable. Have you noticed what others get away with? You can't. The shortcuts others take. They backfire when you try them. The patterns others thrive in, they suffocate you. That's the mantle at work. It won't let you blend in. It won't let you settle. It won't let you self-destruct. Why? Because you are carrying something too holy to be corrupted by convenience. When you carry a mantle, your life becomes set apart, not in a way that makes you better, but in a way that makes you responsible. You become a steward of a frequency higher than your surroundings. And that means you'll often feel out of place, misunderstood, even rejected. But listen closely, that rejection is not a curse. It's a consequence of carrying sacred fire in a world that prefers smoke. Let's take you to a story, a sacred echo of your own journey. Remember Elijah and Elisha? Elisha wasn't handed the mantle because he was the most talented. He was chosen because he was willing to leave everything familiar behind. He followed Elijah through cities in silence, never asking for recognition, only presence. And when the moment came, the mantle fell not on the strongest, but on the most committed. And what happened next? Elisha didn't just receive double the power, he inherited the responsibility of being heaven's mouthpiece. The mantle marked him. It changed him. And you, chosen one, you've experienced that same shift. You're not who you used to be, even if you can't explain why. Your interests have changed. Your circle has shifted. Your discernment has deepened. The old you wouldn't have made it through the pressure you're under now. But the mantle is molding you, maturing you, aligning you. And here's something people rarely understand: that the mantle isolates you before it elevates you. It will pull you away from the crowd to forge you in quiet places, not to punish you, but to protect what's growing in you. Because the mantle attracts resistance, it draws fire. And if you're not rooted before it rests on you fully, it will break you. So God hides you, not because you're forgotten, but because you're favored. And yes, that hiding hurts. It feels like exile. It feels like invisibility. But in reality, it's your cocoon, where the caterpillar is torn down before becoming the butterfly, where oil is crushed out of olives, where the diamond is forged beneath relentless pressure. That's the process of the mantle. Not public, not glamorous, but essential. You've probably wondered why your prayers don't always get instant answers, why your breakthroughs don't come as quickly as others. It's because your walk is governed by another level. You don't live by surface-level faith. You live by covenant. You are being trained not just to survive, but to lead. Not just to speak, but to decree. And that takes depth. That takes fire. You may not wear a crown people can see, but your spirit is robed in authority. That's why the attacks came early. That's why the warfare's been intense. The enemy recognized your mantle before you did. And his goal has always been to convince you to walk away from it before it fully unfolds. But look at you. Still here. Still seeking. Still standing. Wiser. stronger, clearer. That's not random, that's resilience born from revelation. You're starting to feel the mantle now. In the way your spirit tightens when you're in the wrong environment. In the way your peace speaks louder than noise. In the way your presence shifts rooms, even in silence. Chosen one, you are not like the rest. You were born with a holy difference, and the mantle you carry confirms it. But hear me on this, your mantle doesn't just give you spiritual weight, it gives you spiritual authority. That means you don't have to wait for permission to walk in your calling. You don't need confirmation from people who never saw the vision. If God has mantled you, heaven has already endorsed you. So stop shrinking. Stop apologizing. Stop waiting for validation that may never come. You were chosen by the King himself. And when kings choose, the matter is settled. But never forget, the mantle is not about power for power's sake. It's about stewardship. Every gift you've been given is for the liberation of others. Your voice isn't just to speak, it's to break chains. Your vision isn't just to dream, it's to build. Your presence isn't just to be seen, it's to transform atmospheres. That's why the process had to be long. That's why the delays came. Because your mantle needed depth, not just display. And now you're entering a season where that mantle will start to move things. Unlock doors, command shifts. But it had to be cultivated in secret first. So wear it boldly. Walk in it humbly. And trust that every step, every tear, every lonely night was molding you into someone who could carry what few ever will. The mantle is real, and it's yours. Let's pull back the curtain a little more. Chosen one. Because this isn't the first time God has done this. You're not the first soul to carry a heavy mantle, walk a slow path, or be misunderstood by everyone around you. What you're experiencing, it has a pattern, a spiritual blueprint woven throughout Scripture and history. And once you see it, you'll understand your delay is not a detour. It's the same divine orchestration He's used for every generational giant. Take David. The prophet Samuel poured oil on his head and declared him king. Yet he went back to tending sheep, anointed in private, but ignored in public. Then came Goliath, the giant everyone feared. But it wasn't Saul, the current king, who had the courage. It was David, the boy with a sling and a history of solitude. Why? Because the wilderness had forged in him a faith no palace could have produced. And still, after Goliath fell, David didn't ascend the throne immediately. He entered into years of fleeing, hiding, surviving. His delay wasn't punishment. It was preparation for ruling a nation with the heart of a worshiper. Not just the strength of a warrior. Sound familiar? Your life mirrors that same divine rhythm. You were called early, touched by something holy long before you could understand it. But rather than fame or favor, what followed was obscurity, isolation, trial. That's not coincidence. It's covenant. Look at Joseph. He dreamed of leadership. He saw his family bowing before him. But what followed wasn't instant favor. It was betrayal. Thrown into a pit by his brothers. Sold into slavery. Falsely accused. Forgotten in prison. Every step looked like regression. Like denial of the promise. But behind the scenes, God was arranging a famine, stirring Pharaoh's dreams, opening a seat at the palace not just for Joseph's rise, but for the preservation of his people. Joseph wasn't delayed. He was deployed. That's what's happening with you. This isn't about one moment of recognition. This is about legacy, preservation. You've been kept, not sidelined, held, not hindered. And when the moment comes, when everything you've suffered seems to suddenly make sense, you'll realize the pain was part of the preparation. Even Jesus followed this divine rhythm. Born to a virgin, announced by angels, prophesied through centuries. And yet, he waited 30 years. 30 years of silence. No public miracles. No grand sermons. Just quiet obedience. Learning the carpentry trade. Listening for the Father's voice. Why? Because when heaven sends someone to break open eternity, timing is everything. Alignment must be exact. You carry that same echo in your life. You feel the pull of destiny, but the path has looked anything but divine. And yet, the thread is there. You've been led by unseen hands, protected in moments you didn't recognize, equipped through experiences that looked like loss. Because this is how God moves when he's doing something generational. That's the key. You're not called to be a moment. You're called to be a movement. And movements require foundations strong enough to carry generations. That's why you couldn't move like others. That's why shortcuts would have cost you your soul. God needed to dig deep so the winds wouldn't shake you, so the spotlight wouldn't blind you, so the influence wouldn't corrupt you. And even now, as the shifting begins, as doors creak open and people start to take notice, you may feel hesitant. That's natural. Because when you've been in the wilderness long enough, the palace can feel like unfamiliar ground. But chosen one, don't forget who prepared you. The same God who kept you hidden will now guide you into visibility on his terms, in his time, with his protection. But hear this, just because others don't recognize your process doesn't mean it wasn't real. Just because they didn't see the tears, the battles, the private sacrifices, doesn't mean heaven didn't record them. And when God reveals you, when he moves you from the cave to the crown, there will be no doubt, no confusion, just divine confirmation. You won't have to explain yourself. You won't have to prove your worth. Your fruit will speak. Your presence will carry the scent of the secret place, and those who once dismissed you will wonder how they missed it. But don't gloat. Don't become hardened. Walk in mercy. Walk in grace. Because your rise is not a rebuttal, it's a revelation. The pattern is clear. From Moses to Esther. From Paul to Mary. From Ruth to Elijah. Delay has always been God's way of shaping destiny. The longer the pause, the deeper the root. The greater the assignment, the more precise the process. And you are in that lineage, a spiritual descendant of warriors, prophets, intercessors, and kings. Their blood may not flow through your veins, but their spirit does. So embrace the rhythm. Trust the process. What looks like stagnation is sacred acceleration in disguise. What feels like silence is divine strategy. You're not missing out, you're being mapped out. Trained for a task that transcends personal gain. You've been walking the same steps that legends walked. You've cried the same prayers, faced the same doubts. But now, you know the truth. Delay doesn't mean disqualified. It means destined. And very soon, the same God who hid you will unveil you. Now lean in, chosen one. Because what I'm about to say is going to resonate in a place deeper than logic. What if the very thing you thought was God's denial was actually His protection? What if the reason you haven't seen the release yet, the breakthrough, the platform, the relationship, the visibility isn't because you're not ready, but because what's waiting for you must be preserved? God isn't just preparing you. He's protecting what you're called to steward. This is something most people never understand about divine timing. They think it's all about us, our growth, our readiness, our alignment. But what they don't see is that sometimes the delay has nothing to do with you being unprepared. It has everything to do with the space you're walking into still being unclean, still tainted, still full of distraction, sabotage, ego, or premature influence. God is not just orchestrating your development. He's clearing the path ahead of you. He's removing people who would distort the vision. He's shutting down assignments that would hijack your purity. He's rearranging systems, uncovering plots, breaking alliances in the spiritual realm that would have poisoned your purpose had you stepped in too early. Imagine walking into a battlefield without armor. That's what premature promotion feels like. Looks glamorous on the outside, but it will strip your soul if you're not protected on the inside. God knows what's coming. He sees the unseen. And even now, He's shielding you from rooms your ego wants access to, but your spirit is not meant to survive. Not yet. That's why you lost some connections. That's why the opportunity fell through at the last minute. That's why the door that looked perfect suddenly closed. It wasn't sabotage. It was safeguarding. He wasn't trying to frustrate you. He was insulating you from contamination. Because your assignment, it requires a frequency that can't be diluted. And if the environment isn't right, the gift won't flow in fullness. You're not just talented. You're entrusted. That's different. Many people are gifted. Few are guarded. You, chosen one, are guarded because of what you carry, because of what your obedience will unlock, because of what generations will inherit from your faithfulness. And yes, that kind of divine protection often looks like loneliness. It looks like being left out, like being passed over, like losing people who once felt essential. But that's only because the sacred can't be surrounded by the superficial. The holy must be held in clean hands. And until those hands appear, God will let you sit in the waiting room. Not to punish you, but to preserve you. Let's return to the story of Esther. She didn't ask to be queen. She was hidden, chosen, separated, prepared for months, not just for beauty, but for discernment. Because what she would walk into wasn't just a throne, it was a kingdom on the verge of destruction. And had she stepped in too soon, without wisdom, without strategy, without the right people in place, her mission would have failed. But God didn't delay her. He delayed the threat. He delayed the exposure until she was ready to confront it. And then, in one divine moment, all the preparation came to purpose. That's what's coming for you. So let me say this with clarity. Your delay is a divine barricade. It is God's not yet, not His never. It's Him whispering. You're too precious to place in that chaos. Just wait. Let me finish the setup. Because the moment will come, the space will clear, the room will open, and when it does, everything in your spirit will recognize it. You won't need to force it. You won't need to beg or barter or bend yourself out of shape to fit in. The right alignment will feel like peace. It will feel like breath. It will feel like confirmation. Until then, you must guard your own gates. Protect your energy. Don't try to pry open doors God closed. Don't covet someone else's path just because it moves faster. You don't need their platform. You need your path. The one carved out by divinity. The one saturated in oil, not applause. There's a reason your spirit can't settle for shallow. There's a reason you walk into certain rooms and feel a tightening in your chest, a knowing in your gut, a pull to retreat. That's not social anxiety. That's spiritual discernment. That's your anointing alerting you. This isn't your space. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Chosen one. You've been asking God to release you. But He's asking, will you trust me enough to stay hidden until the time is right? Because when the release comes, it won't be subtle. It will be divine eruption. Sudden, sacred, unstoppable. But only if it's protected. And don't think the protection is only for you. It's also for them, the ones you're called to. If you show up too soon, with wounds still open and vision still blurry, you could speak before it's time. Lead before you've been broken enough to serve. Create without being clean. And they need more than charisma. They need truth. They need healing. They need you, fully aligned. That's why the release was delayed. Because the mission isn't light, it's legacy. And legacy requires timing, temperance, and trust. So let the world wonder. Let them ask why you haven't made it yet. Let them call it stagnation. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Your rhythm is not set by popularity, but by prophecy. You are hidden because you are holy. You are covered because you are called. And when the time comes, when the space is ready and the people are in place, nothing and no one will be able to stop what's about to be birthed through you. So now we come full circle. Chosen one. And maybe, just maybe, you're starting to see it. None of this was random. None of it was wasted. What you called a delay was actually divine design. What you saw as punishment was preservation. And what you mistook for stagnation was sacred alignment working through the layers of time, trauma, and truth. You were never just being slowed down. You were being positioned, not for personal gain, but for generational power, for divine release, for impact that will outlive your name. You were set apart because your life is a spiritual blueprint, not just a personal story. You've been moved like a chess piece across the board of history strategically, precisely, even painfully, so that when your moment arrives, all of heaven, earth, and ancestry will be in agreement. And now, chosen one, your time has come. You see, every scar has become a seal. Every no has become a covering. Every loss has become a lesson. And now, you're not just walking forward, you're walking in fullness, in clarity, in authority. The weight you once questioned now fits like armor. The silence you resented now echoes like prophecy. You are not the same version of yourself that first questioned the delay. You've been forged in stillness, refined in the fires of obscurity, stripped of ego, filled with discernment, and now, your feet are standing on the edge of divine release. Not for show, but for shift. And hear this, the world still won't understand you. That's the cost of being the remnant. You are not for the masses. You are for the movement. You are the answer to a problem most people haven't even discovered yet. But those who carry the frequency you carry, they will find you. They'll recognize you, because your light is no longer dimmed by delay. It shines, unshaken, unhidden, undeniable. Remember the wilderness? That place where it seemed nothing could grow. It became your training ground, your sanctuary, your secret altar. And now, you're not coming out empty-handed. You're coming out anointed, with a voice that cuts through illusion, with eyes that see beneath the surface, with hands that carry healing, with a heart that understands why it had to be this way. You were not sent to fit in. You were sent to fulfill prophecy, fulfill divine patterns, fulfill ancestral longings that only you could interpret. And now that fulfillment begins. Everything that once felt slow is about to move swiftly. Everything that felt heavy will suddenly make sense. Every door that closed was making room for the one that's about to swing open, and this time, you'll walk through it ready. So walk boldly, chosen one, with your head high and your spirit steady. Because your delay was really a declaration. Heaven has been preparing the stage not just for your arrival, but for your reign. Not as royalty in the eyes of man, but as legacy in the realm of spirit. You are the one, the torchbearer, the cycle breaker, the one entrusted with mysteries too heavy for the crowd and too sacred for the shallow. This isn't the end of the wait. This is the beginning of the unveiling. Now walk in it, all of it. The oil, the wisdom, the mantle, the moment. You are not delayed. You are divinely deployed. Let these words settle over you now, like rain on thirsty soil. You are not behind. Chosen one. You are exactly where God needs you to be. Every closed door, every slow season, every quiet night was working for your alignment. Your delay was never a denial. It was protection, preparation, and prophecy in motion. Take a deep breath and receive this truth. Heaven has not forgotten you. Heaven has been watching you, applauding your obedience, honoring your private sacrifices, writing down every silent yes in the pages of eternity. You have carried burdens you couldn't explain. You have endured pain you didn't deserve. And still, you remained faithful. Still, you chose love. Still, you kept listening to the voice that whispered, "There is more." And now, the shift is here. The soil is ready. The space is sacred. God is lifting you not to be seen, but to be sent. You are not rising to impress. You are rising to release. Release healing. Release truth. Release everything you've carried in secret to those crying out in silence. So rest in this confirmation: what is for you will not pass you. The timeline of heaven is intact. The promise still stands. And when it unfolds, it will be better, deeper, richer, and more lasting than anything you ever imagined. You were never late. You were always being aligned. Now rise, speak, build, bless. And when the world asks, why now, you'll simply say, because this is God's time. God bless you. Subscribe, like, comment. Share this with someone who needs the confirmation.